Thank you for joining today's Tech Talk. I'm the producer, Lance Hart, and today we'll be talking about empowering enterprise organizations with managed services, automation, and AI. As always, I've got Justin Rice and John Lloyd. Justin, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Lance. And John, as always, thank you for being here today.
Yep, another great Tech Talk.
Another great Tech Talk. And today we are talking about something I know you and I both hold this topic dearly to our heart, which is around managed services.
Yep.
Specifically, how is AI influencing managed services? I want to talk a little bit about a managed services platform and how we define that kind of in our business and kind of where we see the market is going. So why don't we start there? We've been a managed services provider for like 30 years, like a really long time, doing managed collaboration, network, cloud, et cetera, for our customers. But really, what makes managed services valuable in the marketplace, what we see is really the value of the platform. You say this a lot. It's the people, it's the process, the technology. Like, let's talk about that. When I say, John, what do you think about when you hear managed services platform? What does that mean?
So the first thing is ubiquitous. I can talk about this because we have fixed it, but we used to be just as guilty of this.
Yeah.
You see these trends of customers buy in one line of technology from their managed service provider, or they've got 4 different managed service providers. And we realized, and a lot of our competitors are still set up this way. I'm managing your backups. I'm managing your voice. I'm managing your data center. I'm managing your workloads in the cloud. All of that, while it's the same company, feels like it's 4 or 5 different companies. I'm calling into a different support desk. I'm getting a different escalation process. I'm getting different bills, right? All of this was like, well, there is no ubiquitous value of having one MSP to rule them all. I get no economy of scale. I get no handoff and synergy between one to the other. And that's what the platform is. What we set out to do was build this platform that I can plug in whatever service it is that I need, CBTS to be an extension of my team and take on as a managed service provider. And it doesn't matter if that's voice or DR as a service or backup or data center. I feel like I'm working with one organization and they have a holistic view of my environment. And so the more I put into that platform, the better it becomes.
Well, I think you're spot on. Even as consumers, like, think about a platform that we operate in our daily lives, right? Whether that's Meta through Facebook and their ecosystem of products. Platforms are becoming a very popular approach in called the consumerization of technology, but that doesn't need to be different in business. I mean, geez, we see our OEM providers building a platform story through acquisition and through their own innovation. We just kind of figured out, like, well, geez, managed services needs to be the same thing. It doesn't matter if I am, as a customer, if you're managing my network environment, managing my compute environment, my storage environment, my backups, whatever that may be, it should feel like I'm doing business with one organization.
I think you hit on it, which is in the past, we looked at managed services not as the product, right, but as a service, meaning this OEM is building out a platform. They're building all of their products to interact.
Yep.
That's the realization is managed services is the product. It's not your OEM. It's not the router, the switch. It's the service that we're delivering. And that's what the platform is doing, is looking at it as a product, looking at it as a solution rather than us managing 10 different solutions that you have. No, we are the solution.
We are the solution. Well, let's talk about that, because it can seem a little ambiguous the first time you hear it. So let's talk about the components that make up a platform. And I think we have, 5 of them. So I'm going to kind of walk through the first couple, and I'd love you to walk through the final 3. So first of which is you have your customer environment, right? We call that the external layer. That is, the end user devices or the end user applications that you wish somebody, whether it's CBTS or not, you want somebody to manage. That's your external environment, right? But then you have, this is where the kind of the brains of the operation starts to happen, which is your core layer. That's your delivery platform, right? That is your, ServiceNows of the world or Remedy or whatever those systems are. That's your logic monitor. That is where AI ops starts to come in. That's where device management comes in. That's your core layer. Any managed services platform kind of has to have that core layer. So you start with your external, your customer layer, you get into the core, and then where do you go from there?
So it's how you interact, right?
Yep.
So we look at the service layer. You as the end customer, I say this a little tongue in cheek, but we've never once had a managed service customer call us to just say, hey, things are going really well today, right? And so having that excellence from support and operations in the service layer, that's how do you interact with your customer? That is who is interacting with your customer? Where are they located? When are they able to be engaged, meeting your SLAs, that sort of stuff. And so that service layer is wildly important because it's really the part that the customer sees. It's the part that they interact with. We use the core layer to deliver the outcomes that we promise, but the service layer is where us and the customer meet.
Yeah, no, that's great. If I'm a user of a consumer of managed services, what are you hearing from our customers that they want to see?
Inspect what you expect, right? The goal is that they never call us. That's their goal, not ours, right? The goal is it just works. The goal is tickets are down, and if they do come in, that they get worked. But there's real contracts, there's real effort. Like minutes feel like hours, hours feel like days in the event of an outage. And so us being able to show and correlate data becomes very important for the customer to have control of their environment, to have insights into how it's going, and being able to back that up with data, right? So perception can be reality. It feels like we have issues all the time. Well, no, in fact, you don't. It's just you happen to be at the one site that had a power issue. And so that's why it felt like you were having issues. So having that data is mission critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we would be remiss not to talk about where AI is going to play a role in managed services. You know, we've been doing this for a long time in managed services, and you knew like the more volume you had, the more staff you had to operate that to meet your SLAs and the customer experience goals that you have to provide a positive outcome for your customer.
Yep.
Now what we're seeing is kind of everybody's raising their hands saying, well, we're in AI ops. We're in AI ops. As it relates to managed services, where do you see AI playing a role now and then in the future?
I'll answer for us.
Yeah.
There are other people out there that look at agentic AI and say, I can do this automated. I don't need people, right? Back to what I said earlier, nobody's ever called us in a good mood and said, hey, great job today.
Yeah.
You're calling, we're interacting because you have an issue, because your business is being impacted. That is not the time for you to be talking to an LLM or talking to a bot or talking to an agent.
Yep.
So we believe that it is still human interaction. However, AI, when deployed properly, can make us better, faster, stronger. And what I mean by that is more calls resolved at tier 1 rather than being escalated to a tier 2 or a tier 3 engineer. More calls resolved on a first call resolution rather than taking 2 or 3 different exchanges back and forth. Lower SLAs, meaning better response time, better repair time, more strict, more stringent SLAs, because my tier 1s are able to solve a problem in 5 minutes, 10 minutes with the help of AI ops, telling them where to go look. Hey, here's where the problem is at, rather than trying to find the needle in the haystack. Here's some suggested things. We've seen this behavior before. My LLM will tell me this router has had this type of problem at these 5 other customers. This is what the root cause was. AI is a tool to enable our people. We don't see it as a tool to replace our people.
Exactly right. It's making sure that those people are doing the high quality, meaningful work for the customers. And to your point, the call it predictive analytics of it all, of AI with recommendations to like, hey, this router has had a bug and 5 other customers. You might want to look here, and that's your first place to start. That is a game changer for managed service operators, because it's truly like the value differential is so huge.
Well, and think about this, like in any AI tool, any LLM, you go to ChatGPT, you go to Copilot, go to Grok, whatever your religion is on AI tools, you're going to get the disclaimer at the bottom that says like, this data shouldn't be implicitly trusted, like do your own research. AI has fallibilities. Okay. That's one thing when you're finding out, the summary of your emails, right? That's a whole different thing when you're using it to manage your network. And so that's a question we deal with all the time is, and I talked with Bob Friday from Juniper. I was just on his podcast, Godfather of Wireless, and he equates it to the Waymo versus the Tesla self-driving, right? Do you blindly and implicitly trust that AI is going to manage your network without any human interaction? Or is it more like the Tesla self-driving where it can do a lot of things on its own, but you like the ability to take the wheel when you need to versus, Waymo, you don't. And that's where I see AI, where I see it going is it is always going to be a human-made tool with infallibility to it. It can be a great tool to help. In some areas it can replace, but I think the replacement is more in the automation space.
Yep.
You're still going to want an expert. If you're going to bet your job on it, you want experts looking at it, not LLMs.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think, the one thing that we've certainly signed up for is like, let's share that with our customers, share that value with our customers. And oh, by the way, if we mess up, if we don't meet an SLA, okay, there'll be financial penalties for it. And what I mean by that is, and you kind of brought this up, is when we're negotiating a managed service contract with our customers, because we believe in so much in the managed services platform, because we believe in the augmented efforts of AI ops to help us solve our critical issues fast, I'm going to give you a better SLA because I think you should reap the benefits of trusting us to support you better, which I think is a major change in the industry for operators like us.
Correct. There's this fallacy or like that customers go to an MSP and want more interaction and want more involvement. The goal is to not, right? They turn over the network, they turn over the data center, they turn over the hyperscaler because they want somebody to just make it work, right? That's the contract that we're signing up for. And so it's okay to share with your customer that you've built this great platform. We've built these great tools, all with the end goal of reducing the amount that we need to interact because it's a self-healing network or because it's getting to AI root cause analysis. It's making it easier for me to do my job. You should reap the benefits of that. And a lot of people, I think, try to hide that behind a curtain.
Yeah. It's interesting, John, a lot of times we do these tech talks and we try to be pretty agnostic in our conversation, talking about next generation technologies. And while managed service platform for us certainly hits close to home, I am curious just your take on if I'm a customer watching this and I need to start somewhere tomorrow with an MSP. My criteria might be different than it was 3 years ago.
Yep.
What am I looking at now if I'm a customer?
So I'm looking at the breadth of knowledge, right? If the stated goal is to get to a platform model, how wide can you go? Are you only network? Are you only servers? Can you help me? There's a labor gap. There is a shortage of people that come out of college and say, I want to be a database administrator, of people that say, everyone wants to do AI and app dev and cybersecurity and forget about the firewall that's part of cybersecurity. So there's this labor shortage and this labor gap, and it's only going to get worse. So that one is important. How wide can you go? The second is, what are the outcomes? I had a CIO from a very large healthcare organization tell me, I'm tired of buying the tools, logos based on the employees I have. And I'm also tired of trying to find employees based on the logos that I have. So when I sign up for a service provider, what is my flexibility? You take over what's in place today. Do you have buying options where I can maybe move to an OpEx model, a network as a service, consume, you bring the hardware licensing and management? Or can you help me on my lifecycle management and refresh? Help me with my CMDB. Not just watch the blinky lights, but really be an extension of my team and help there. Which leads to, what is my access? What is my control, right? Yeah. Co-management, is it read-only? We think it's important for customers to have access. We're here to do anything and everything and honor our contract, but you may want to log in and make a change yourself. And we want you to have that autonomy as well. And so we think a ubiquitous platform, a co-management approach, which lends to be an extension of your team versus a replacement, somebody that's building on the right tools of AI to make them stronger, not replace their people. Those are some of the core and kind of key tenets, because I don't want to have to standardize on one OEM because that's the only one that I want to be able to buy what's right for my organization and trust that you're going to have the wide enough breadth of knowledge and expertise to go on that journey with me.
I think the breadth and depth, that's an important comment, just given the fact that there's so many different OEM technologies out there today, and our customers have choices, right? but a service provider, a managed service provider, should be able to adapt to what the customer needs for their business rather than just focus on one or two things. I mean, you and I have talked about for years about like the jobs to be done, right?
Yeah.
Like when I'm talking to a customer who's like, I think I need to evaluate a managed service provider. Generally what I say is, okay, write a job description. If that was a person you're going to hire in your organization, write a job description. Write everything that you want out of provider and let that be your true north when you're evaluating what your future looks like. Treat it as if it's literally an employee that you're going to pay for every single month.
Completely agree. So you think about it as an employee. Where would you want your employee spending their time?
Yep.
Are you going to pay more for somebody that can configure a VLAN on a switch, right? It's not intellectual property. It's not unique to how you do business. And that was a CIO of a Fortune 500 company I work with said, if it's not intellectual property, if it's not how we make money, I don't want to do it. It's you guys configure OSPF routing. I don't need some wizard in OSPF routing. It's a legacy open standard. Like everybody knows it.
Yep.
You guys do that for me. Instead, I've got to hire a person. Then I pay benefits. They tell me how long I've been here 5 years. Now I need cost of living raise. Like it's a giant pain sometimes to build out a team all for what? Building an access port, building a trunk port. And so to his point is he's got a large IT staff that helps develop their application that's customer facing, that helps run the networking of their public hyperscalers that the applications live in, that's customer facing. And his whole point is if it is unique to my business and it is unique to how I make money, I want that to be in-house. If it is not intellectual property, there's an economy of scale of me giving it over to an MSP who doesn't get sick, who doesn't take paid time off, who doesn't get competing offers from our competitors that we don't have to match. Why hire that internally? It's not unique to how we do business and revenue. We give that to an MSP. So it's very similar to the job description. Do you need to hire that job role as a dedicated job role?
Yeah, right. No, totally agree with you. I do want to, from a time check perspective, about 10 minutes left here. If you do have questions, please put them in the comments. We will respond. But I do want to shift gears a little bit, John, because this has been a hot topic for us in our business. And I know at industry events, I've heard the same. Professional services versus managed services in our world.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
So part of it is who owns the outcome, right? Because there's different paths to professional services. But ultimately, managed services is I take over what is in place today. That doesn't mean it's the best. It doesn't mean it can't be improved. And so we love to look at, if a customer comes to us and says, we're evaluating managed service providers, I'd love to do a network assessment. I'd love to understand. One of my architects always says, that customer was building their network one trouble ticket at a time. That's a recipe for disaster. And what we mean by that is we're managing the environment. We take it over. It's already deployed. We take it on. An alarm goes off. We investigate that alarm, and it turns out that there was a routing loop. We fix that routing loop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we wait for the next alarm, and we fix the spanning tree issue. Now we wait for the next alarm, and we realize there was a bad security policy. That along the way, they go, wow, there's too many alarms. This isn't great. And that's where professional services comes in, right? There's a difference between day two, which is managed services, keeping the lights on, monitoring it, making changes as needed, and professional services, which is more around building an outcome.
Yep.
I'm going to spend 3 months going to all of your sites, making recommendations on how to optimize this network before we take it on in managed services. I'm going to help you understand what is your lifecycle management, what is end of life, what's end of support. Let's build a refresh lifecycle over the next 3 to 5 years. What is the outcome? We have a lot of customers too that maybe we're managing part of their business and not another part. They don't have budget or headcount for an FTE. They do have budget in their P&L through the end of the year, and they've got projects that have to get done by the end of the year. And so I always ask customers, what is on your to-do list that you don't think your team's going to have time to get to, or maybe doesn't have the expertise to do, and you don't want to add headcount? That's where professional services, it's giving you an outcome for a fee versus the day two in managed services. But really what success looks like is when we do those two together. Before we take it on, let's not build it one trouble ticket at a time.
Well, you're right. Like even, our company, and I know other companies have similar methodologies, but, for us, call it that holy grail of a customer engagement. For us to provide the best outcome for our customers is, we have this methodology. It's assess, design, deploy, and operate, right?
Yep.
I want to come in, to your point, network assessment. love to assess your environment. I'd love to then design it and deploy it and then operate it, because when I get to that operation state and I did all that work ahead of time, the experience is going to be far greater than us just picking one of those pieces.
Yeah, we always ask, we get a lot of our customers, especially in the past. It's changing more now with some of the labor shortage I talked about. But we have a current MSP. We don't like our MSP. My first question is always, why?
Yep.
What don't you like about them? And a lot of times you find they signed up for what I call your mess for less, right? We've got issues in our network. We've got issues in our applications, right? I'm going to give it to a managed service provider. That's fine. They're not fixing that. They're managing what you gave them to manage. To your, assess, design, deploy, and operate. I always talk to customers too. Another way to look at it is build it, buy it, or partner. If you want to build it yourself, that's fine. Go and buy, I'll sell you the router, I'll sell you the switch, and I walk away. If you want to buy it, buying the outcome, right? I'll sell you the router or switch. I'll sell you the Microsoft licensing. I'm a CSP, and then I will implement it. I'll stage it, configure it, kit it, install it, and then I walk away. And then there's partner, and that is adding in that day two, that managed services layer, where I've sold you the product, I've sold you the outcome. Now I'm going to partner with you to make sure that it's optimized.
Yeah. Well, obviously, back to the platform conversation, we've talked about the different products that could feed into the platform, right? It needs to be modular. You want someone that can go pretty deep and wide on a bunch of different technologies, but you still have to be governed by a tool set. Generally, if you're going to support your customers, what are some of those tools that we use or that we see others using to build out a managed services platform?
Yeah. So for us, it starts with an enterprise class ITSM tool, right?
Yeah.
That is the heartbeat of ticketing, of change requests, of CMDB. And for us, that's ServiceNow.
Yeah.
So we're a big ServiceNow shop. All the modules, we help develop it internally. We help develop it for customers as part of our pro services. And we like to integrate that. We'll e-bond it. If you have ServiceNow, that's even better, but we'll do it to Jira, we'll do it to Remedy, we'll do it to Avanti, right? If you're cloud-based with a REST API, we want that free flow back and forth and try to eliminate the phone calls and the emails. It just makes for a better experience. Once we've got that platform in place, what is sending it alerts, right? And that's where we get to the monitoring platform. And for us, we've gone through a lot of different monitoring platforms. We've done RFPs. We want something that is ubiquitous, that can work for workloads, can work for servers, can work for network equipment, can work for hyperscalers, but it's also a lightweight, not something big and heavy in our data center that constantly needs downtime. And so we partner with Logic Monitor. We think they're the big winner in this space. There are others, but we also want a predictable billing model, not something that's based on consumption, because we want our customers to know what they're getting every month. But we've seen the convergence of network and application as well. And so we see application performance monitoring be crucial. And there's some tools like Palo has their autonomous digital experience manager that's helping understand through the flow of their network. But you also have applications that aren't in the flow of your network, or people are working from home. So you'll see us layer in New Relic for application performance monitoring. You'll see us layer in some AI tools like Icera that's helping us from an LLM standpoint look at our data, our history, our logs to get to a better first call. And then automation. So I always say AI and automation gets confused sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Automation's been a big part of how we go to market. And it's not to take a shortcut or an easy way out. It's to remove risk, right? You and I worked together with an 800 and something site retailer. This is years ago. In the early days, we were doing our Meraki managed service or network as a service. And they said, we've got a change request. And we literally went and touched 800 stores in the GUI, click, change, save, click, change, save. And it took us 20 something hours to do this. And we had a team of people helping. And then we found 7 stores got missed just because as we divvied up this work or that work, or somebody forgot to hit save. Now we do all of that with automation from their API. We use Python scripting for that. And it takes under 3 minutes now to roll those changes out. It also removes that error because it hits every single store. And so we're built on Red Hat Ansible. We're built on Terraform for infrastructure as code. You see us use automation and infrastructure as code, which is an industry best practice to remove that risk.
The reason I asked that question, one, there's a lot that goes into it. But two is, it's not like as a managed service provider, we're developing all this intellectual property, all this tooling, right? We're using best of breed to build an experience for our customers. And I think that's often like a common misconception from MSPs. Now, with that said, we are running out of time. So Jon, thank you so much for talking today. As always, Tech Talks are great. Managed service is certainly something we are passionate about. But until next time, thank you. And thanks, Lance.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Lance.
Hey, anytime.